3 months ago, on the Friday before spring break at 1:40 p.m., my dad passed away in a car accident. A man ran a red light and T-boned his car. It all happened in a part of town 2 hours away from our family home, where he and my mom lived. Strangely enough, it was only 20 minutes from my college campus. When I received the heartbreaking news of his death, I was surprised that the accident occurred so close to my school. My mind raced with questions. Was he planning to surprise me at school? The thought lingered because he had only visited my campus once before, and that was when I was moving into an apartment with my girlfriend near the campus. As I tried to make sense of it all, my mom shared with me that my dad had planned to drive to another state for a work function and wouldn't be back until Monday. I had no knowledge of this plan as I wasn't heading home for spring break. My friends and I had exciting plans for a 3-day concert, and I had even hoped my girlfriend would join us. However, she had already made plans with her family for spring break, and at the time, it felt completely believable. The pieces of the puzzle surrounding my dad's last moments started to form a picture that left me with a mix of sadness and confusion. My dad, at 51 years old, and I shared a typical father-son relationship. I'm the middle child at 20 among my 2 siblings. Just like any family, we had our moments. My girlfriend, also 20, shared my age. The tragedy hit hard, and my mom was inconsolable. I found myself having to gather his belongings from the damaged car lot where his vehicle had been towed. What cut the deepest was witnessing the bloodstains on his car, unmistakably his. The visual reminder of his bodily fluids left an indescribable ache in my heart. It made the reality of his absence painfully tangible, and the thought that those marks were a part of him, now forever imprinted on that vehicle, weighed heavily on my emotions. Both my girlfriend and I had to abandon our college lives to return home. She didn't have to make that sacrifice, especially considering her pre-planned spring break with her family. Yet she chose to cancel those plans and be by my side. Her emotional turmoil surpassed even mine. I'd catch her in the room trying to conceal her tears, and it struck me deeply. At first, I wondered if she did it to discourage my own grief. However, our history ran deep. We had been dating since we were 17, and our families knew and supported our relationship, believing we were positive influences on each other. The fact that she was shedding tears alongside me served as a testament to the bond we shared. During my dad's funeral, which took place 2 weeks after his tragic passing, my girlfriend's mourning was profound. It was as if she had seamlessly become one of my siblings, sharing in the grief and loss. The somber atmosphere of the funeral seemed to draw us even closer as we navigated the emotional turmoil together. However, as the weeks unfolded, a new set of challenges arose. My girlfriend seemed caught in a perpetual state of mourning. Her eyes were consistently swollen and tears flowed ceaselessly. It became increasingly apparent that something deeper was troubling her. The lines of communication between us faltered, and she withdrew into her own world. To compound matters, she began talking to a therapist, a decision that baffled me. I questioned whether her reaction was usual for someone grieving or if there was more to the story. I couldn't understand why she was struggling so intensely, especially after the funeral had passed. In my attempt to seek advice and understanding, I posted about the situation on a forum. Unfortunately, the responses were not what I expected. People turned on me, suggesting that I should be more supportive, considering the emotional stress that losing someone can bring. While I understood the importance of support, it left me feeling isolated and confused. I pondered on the comments from the forum, grappling with the realization that my girlfriend, despite being 20 years old, had never experienced the death of a loved one before. This was her first encounter with such a profound loss, and the weight of it was taking a toll on her in ways I hadn't anticipated. This continued for a month after the funeral. Every time I saw her, it seemed like she was on the verge of tears, and my response was simply to hold her in an attempt to provide comfort. Then, one day, she expressed a desire to share something with me. I felt a sense of relief, thinking that she was finally ready to open up, especially since she had been speaking with a therapist. I hoped that this conversation would mark a turning point where we could support each other through the difficult times. However, she prefaced her revelation with a plea for forgiveness, assuring me not to be angry. My anxiety heightened as she began to cry before actually revealing what was on her mind. I braced myself for whatever she was about to disclose, realizing that it must be significant for her to approach the conversation in this manner. Finally, she started to speak, admitting that she had not planned on going to spring break with her family, as she had previously told me. My initial shock at this revelation was only surpassed by the unexpected twist that followed. She confessed to lying about her plans and dropped a bombshell. She had planned on going on spring break with my dad. The weight of her words hit me, and my mind swirled with a multitude of questions. Why would she lie about her whereabouts and companions during spring break? And most importantly, how could she plan on going to spring break with my dad? The revelation left me stunned, grappling with a mix of emotions and an overwhelming need for answers. I stood there in shock, unable to connect the dots as my girlfriend revealed that my dad had booked a flight to Cancun with her. The words hit me like a tidal wave, and she continued to express her love for both me and my dad. I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. In that moment, I instinctively pushed her away, my mind freezing with disbelief. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the realization struck me like a lightning bolt. The reason my dad had been 2 hours away from home, supposedly on a work function, was to pick up my girlfriend to drive to the airport for their clandestine spring break together. My mom had been deceived with a different story, believing he would be back on Monday. The shock and betrayal overwhelmed me. My girlfriend confessed that the guilt had eaten away at her, and she believed her presence with my dad had caused the car accident, viewing it as a form of divine punishment. I sat on the bed, stunned. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that my girlfriend, who I considered my first and only love, would cheat on me, let alone with my own father. The revelation of their affair left me shattered. We had shared so many firsts together, and now I was learning that she had been involved with my dad as well. After a prolonged period of silence, she began to plead with me, urging me to say something, to express my anger, and even encouraging me to hit her. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, but I couldn't ignore the thought of how this revelation would devastate my mom and siblings. I struggled to find the right words to describe this unimaginable betrayal. It felt like I was losing my dad all over again, and the thought of my mom's potential devastation seemed insurmountable. I had always believed in my parents' deep love for each other. Despite the occasional arguments, they rarely fought, consistently exchanged I love yous and shared kisses. Their relationship had been a beacon of hope for me, and now that image was shattered. Once the initial shock subsided, I managed to ask my girlfriend how long the affair had been going on. Her response, 2 years, hit me like a punch to the gut. It meant that for about a year after we began our intimate relationship, she had been involved with both me and my dad. The devastation I felt was indescribable. The foundation of trust that I had built with her had crumbled, leaving me in a state of emotional chaos. As the shock gave way to anger, I found myself furious with both her and my late father. I couldn't fathom the betrayal from someone I loved and trusted, and the realization that my dad had been a part of this betrayal added another layer of anguish. In an attempt to distance myself and process the overwhelming emotions, I told my girlfriend that I needed some time away. I informed her that when I returned, she should no longer be at our apartment. Given that most of the belongings were mine, she managed to gather her things before I returned the following day. The once shared space now felt empty and haunted by the echoes of a broken trust that I never saw coming. Alone in the park, I grappled with the unexpected loneliness that consumed me. Never in my wildest dreams had I suspected that my dad and my girlfriend, two people I loved dearly, would betray the ones they claimed to love without remorse. The world felt cruel, and the weight of the betrayal pressed heavily on my shoulders. At times, the thought of not being alive seemed like a preferable alternative. Upon returning to the apartment and finding it emptier than before, the sense of isolation deepened. I wished for a reality where this unimaginable betrayal had never occurred. As I contemplated my next steps, the question of whether to disclose this heart-wrenching truth to my family loomed over me. After careful consideration, I decided to keep the painful secret to myself. Writing down the pros and cons, I concluded that revealing the affair would only spread the cancerous pain my dad had caused. While part of me questioned the decision, I believed it was for the best. The betrayal was an unforgivable sin, and disclosing it would only inflict more wounds upon the living. Though my family knew about our breakup, my ex-girlfriend and I agreed to keep the details private. We had become each other's silent accomplices, burying the truth beneath layers of secrecy. Doubt lingered in my mind, but I reached out to Reddit seeking opinions on whether I had made the right decision.